Okay, so right now my starter is at about a half a cup. So this is what I'm gonna do. So I told you yesterday that like I usually don't do a 1-to-1-to-1, but because I might be using this later, this is a fourth cup. I'm gonna go ahead and do half a cup of flour. This is water just straight from my refrigerator door. I need to do a half a cup of this as well. And then I'll show you the consistency of once that's mixed up and if I add anything else. Okay, because I actually forgot to feed at all yesterday. This is very runny. And I'm gonna add in more flour, but I'm just gonna do tablespoons. So I'll do like a couple tablespoons at first and then mix it and check, and then I'll let you know how much goes in. Okay, I did 2 tablespoons. Now you can see it's almost like a dough consistency, like a very loose dough. Thick pancake batter is what they say, but that's usually where I keep it. It's pretty thick. I'm gonna scrape down the sides, and then also just ignore the dirtiness of this glass. And just cover it with my napkin. That was on an old note, so that's not even relevant. And then set this to the side somewhere warm. And once it doubles ish, and oh, it was 2 tablespoons. I was right, just by the guessing. Typically I put a little less water than I do flour, but because it had been so long since I fed, I just overdid it. But so I did a half a cup plus 2 tablespoons into that runny starter, and then a half a cup of water, and it was all good. Okay, I started doing this and forgot to record, but I'm gonna do one, and it calls for 125 grams of starter. I accidentally did a little more, so it's like 133, it's whatever. And then I think it's also 365 grams of water, warm tap water. I'm actually only gonna do 350. Uh, 356. And then I'm gonna do some avocado oil, and that helps with a little bit of a softer crust and bread. And that's 370 grams of liquid. And from there, take it off the scale. You just mix it up till it's nice and frothy. Doesn't have to be anything too crazy. And 0. Put this back on the scale. 0 it out. And since this is a single loaf, I'm gonna do 500 grams of flour. I use King Arthur bread flour. Just gonna do 500 on the dot. Some people don't put salt in until they are on stretch and folds. You've had my bread, so clearly it works just fine. Let me see. Oh, hang on, you're sitting on my salt. I'm gonna do 12 grams of salt. Okay, salt clumped up a little bit, so there's 15 grams. It's honestly no big deal. And then I have one of these dough whisk. I'm just gonna go for it until it starts to come together. Because honestly, I don't like getting it on my hands, but once it gets to a certain stage, it does usually require hand mixing. Well, this has a little bit less dough than 2 loaves, obviously, so I might can get away without getting my hand dirty. And this is my bench scraper, little plastic one to go along the contours of the bowl, so that's nice. And then scrape down, and then I go ahead and start mixing it that way a little bit. And that's why that was a whole big glob of dried salt. This is the texture of the dough. Also, I'm doing this right now. I fed my starter whenever I sent that video to you this morning. And then I ended up going to my dad's and helping do some stuff over there all day. So I did take it off the warmer and just let it bubble up. But this is what my dough looks like. It's pretty sticky, shaggy. I'll touch it for the video, but a little bit of stretch, but it just clumps, pulls apart. And then now I'm gonna let this sit for an hour, and I'll do stretch and folds. Okay, trying this on TikTok so I can do like clips of each stretch and fold. So hopefully that works. And I did forget to say in the last part, I did cover this for the hour. And then, pro tip, when you're doing stretch and folds, wet your hands. So, I got a bowl of water back there. Wet hands, over on the side. See, it's no longer shaggy. It's sticking together. It's still kind of loose. This is why we're doing the stretch and folds. It builds the gluten. I see a lot of people be like, oh, I only go around the bowl once, so 4 stretch and folds. Fuck that. I build up the gluten strands. I really work the dough and just keep stretching and folding. See, it's tearing. This is my first stretch and fold since I mixed it. But I do this until it just starts to pull away from the bowl. And then this is looking pretty good. And I really hope that this works out on TikTok and I didn't just lose that. So I'll probably maybe save the clip. I don't know how to do it. But that's good. You can see it's still somewhat sticky, but not anything crazy. But this is where we're at, so I'll cover it up with my extremely messy hands and then just set it back off to the side. Do this again in 30 minutes. Okay, we back, baby. Second round of stretch and folds. Wet hand. Pull up, fold over, pull up. And you can see it's a lot less sticky. It's a lot more stretchy. So I probably won't do as many turns as I did that first time because I had already built up. And then you want to do something real fancy, you can do what's called a coil fold. Pick it up, but it's already pretty well built up, assuming you can still see that. So it's pretty much all this one takes, because I spent the extra time on the first round. I mean, pretty good. And my unwet hand, tiny bit, so cover that back up, do it again in 30 minutes. All right, stretch and fold number 3, wet hand, going around the side. You can actually see, I just saw an air bubble that I popped, but it's proofing. Still pretty stretchy, it's good. The same thing with the second. Probably not going to do this too much. Just working that gluten. Bubble. So we're doing good. All right, number 3 done. Okay, the last stretch and fold. Let's see, it's gonna be sticky. It's a little sticky. Wet hands, under, over, under. You can definitely see it's a lot less sticky now. I don't have to do as many stretch and folds, just like 2 and 3. But it's really developed that gluten. It's hard to stretch. And then that's pretty much it for number 4. And then I'll just cover and let this sit for 2 hours, and then I'll come back and shape it. Okay, this is going to be the last thing I do tonight, but my dough, nice and jiggly, it's raised, so I have this, it's a little sifter thing for flour. I'm going to coat the entire top with flour, just a good amount, and then I'm going to get my bench scraper. Take the bench scraper and I run it around the outside. It also pushes some of that dough, or the flour, under the dough. And then I'm gonna just plop it out. And this is only 1 loaf, so I'm not having to cut it. But then sprinkle more flour on it. I don't typically do this on the stove. This is just where I can record. So that's gonna be fun. Move this bowl out of the way. And then, oh, it's nice. It's nice. It's light, fluffy, airy, super soft. But because I put that flour on it, it's not sticking to me. It's not sticking to the stove. This is the part that they call laminating. I'm also going to do inclusions with this one. If you were going to do just plain dough, because I know that's what you've done, you would just fold it over, and then roll it up. And then you'd let it sit for 20 minutes or 30 minutes, and you stretch it back out into a square again, do the same thing, and then that's whenever you proof it. But I'm going to do inclusions because it's just better. This is Italian seasoning, which I'm almost out with the amount of bread that I've made recently. And then, because I am the worst, best cooking show, I went ahead and pre-diced this cheese. And I'm gonna just sprinkle it all over. This is white cheddar. Some fancy shit that I got. And I'm gonna lightly press it in. I actually think I have enough. Do a little bit more here. Press it in. And I don't feel like dealing with minced garlic, so I'm gonna use some garlic powder. Just sprinkle that all over. Move the cheese. Okay, so if you weren't doing inclusions, this is where you would be. Fold over, kind of mush it down. I'm gonna put more in the middle. Not much, just a little bit. Seasonings. A little bit of cheese, because the fold over will cause cheese to already get here, but because I have it, why not? And then push those down. Pull, fold over. And then again, garlic, done, Italian seasoning, last little bit, it's out, and just for fun, I'll take a little bit of black pepper, a lot of black pepper, that's fine. The rest of my cheese. Hopefully I don't run out of time. I'm gonna pause it because I'm about to run out of time. Okay, I literally have 20 seconds. Put the cheese in there. Just roll it up. And then you do this. It's nice and tight. Bitch, you got cut off. Okay, so this is where we left off. I'm going to, what you're doing here is you're tucking in those ends and then creating some surface tension. Especially if you have inclusions, you don't want to go too hard on this step or you're gonna get, you're gonna break it like I just did there. So, because that just broke, I'm just gonna be easy with it, gentle. Flip it over, check the bottom, it's fine. I used a Banneton basket with a tea towel in there. I spread flour there, put flour over the top, and then you just lop it in. I kind of shape it a little bit. Shape it, and then cover it, and then this goes in the fridge for 2 hours. I'm gonna do it overnight, and then that's gonna be a whole separate set of videos tomorrow. I'm gonna put this up and clean up and go to bed. Okay, good morning. Baking time. So my oven is preheated to 500 degrees. I just took my loaf out of the fridge. It was in there from about 11:30-ish to now, and it is just after 8 in the morning. Typically, I would only have it cold proofing for 2 hours, but you know, I didn't feel like baking at midnight. 1 second. I'm putting more flour on the bottom. A lot of people use rice flour because apparently it's like lower, like moisture absorbing. I just use my regular old flour. And then Oh, if you were using your Dutch oven, put it in the oven while it preheats. But for me, loaf pans are easier for like eating, so that's why I'm doing this one in a loaf pan. I also have these things, silicone mats, but for demonstration purposes, I'm just going to use parchment paper. So flour the top. I'm going to crumple the parchment paper so it forms the, or so it molds to the pan easier. I also sprayed the edges with my pan. Sprayed the edges of my pan. Because sometimes the cheese will melt out around the sides, but that's typically when I use my little silicone mold thing. You just flip this out onto the parchment paper. Remove the towel. And then I kind of tuck mine. And you don't have to flour the top. It just gives it that white effect. So I'll do that just so you can see the design. And then just lightly push it on. And I have one of these, but you can use a knife. It's just a razor. Let me see. I actually screenshotted the design, so I'm gonna try that. One second. Okay, I had to remind myself what it was. So their relief scores over here. Oh no, I'm getting stuck on the cheese. Here to here. The relief scores are the deeper scores. That's so it doesn't like explode or whatever. I'm sure you know that though. Let's see how this works. I probably should have done those scores after I put it in the pan. It's fine though. We'll see what happens. And then, the way you cook them in a loaf pan, even though that's glass on the bottom, it's fine. I have two metal ones, but my other one is completely filthy. You take another loaf pan, and you just put it on top. Just like that. And that creates a Dutch oven. So this is gonna go into a 500-degree oven for 35 minutes. I'll take this pan off, and then drop it down to 425 for 15-ish minutes. Okay, it's been 35 minutes. I'm just gonna carefully remove this top pan. Look at that. And then drop this down to 425. Timer. 15 minutes. 15 minutes passed. The design leaves something to be desired, but looks pretty good. Okay, I got it out. Sounds good. I'm just using the crusty old air fryer basket as my cooling rack. So think this is gonna be the end. You know what to do now. You let it sit for an hour, 2 hours. And then I can cut it.